Good morning. So we have to discuss on creative principles in architectural design. So when you use these elements such as point, line, plane, and solids, you will get different architectural combinations, architectural forms, and they are based on certain creative principles. One such principle is called the unity. Unity is one of the creative principles. Unity is defined as that quality of the architectural form which conveys a oneness. Even though you are using various elements, they are heterogeneous in nature. Point is totally different from a line. Line and solids are different. But once you combine them in an art as well as science, along with engineering and technology, you should get a form which conveys unity. That composition should convey a sort of togetherness. Similarly, there is another counter principle in architecture known as duality. So, duality is also another architectural creative principle. In duality, you see two identical objects with a center of vision. When you look at an architectural form, you will see a duality elements on both sides of the axis of vision or axis of symmetry, then that is called duality. Duality is very much employed in traditional architecture. If you see a temple, church, mosque, wherever the places of worship, you can see symmetrical, identical elements on either side of the axis of vision or center of vision. That is duality. Even though the elements are dual on either side of the axis, the unity is not lost there. Even then, the total architectural form as a whole conveys unity. So, duality can ultimately lead to unity. So, unity, duality. Then, harmony. Harmony is another creative principle in architecture. When the elements are repeating in nature, that is, one point element, then a line element, again a point element, then a line element. If they synchronize, repetitive in nature, without affecting the unity. So, unity is the basic principle. You should look at the structure. When you look at the structure, all the elements should compete each other at the same time, should not create a monotony. They should be visually appealing. That visual appeal is called unity. So, repetition of architectural elements in a rhythmic fashion, in a proportionate way, is called harmony. Then, a very adaptive and very often used creative principle in architecture is called composition. Composition. Composition is nothing but putting together various elements of the architectural forms in different orientations. The orientation of the objects will be different. When you orient the objects in different form, then it is called a composition. You will have horizontal compositions, you will have vertical compositions, You can have any random composition, even an inclined composition. You can have a zigzag composition or a random composition. Anything is possible. Only thing, ultimately, when it comes as an object or a form, an architectural structure or a shape, it should convey visual alertness, visual happiness, a visual feeling of oneness. Horizontal composition will give a feeling that the total height of a structure, it is not literally reduced. But when you just go on giving so many horizontal compositions, wider compositions, the overall height of a structure will visually be reduced. Visually, you will have a feeling that even if the height of the structure is more, the horizontal compositions, the wider components, will visually reduce the overall height of the structure. Taj Mahal is taller than Qutub Minar. Taj Mahal in India, Qutub Minar in Agra. Taj Mahal is taller than Qutub Minar. But the composition of Taj Mahal, if you see, the spread of the Taj Mahal visually reduces its height, and since a vertical composition is there in the Qutub Minar, a linear element in the vertical direction, the actual height of the Qutub Minar is again enhanced because of the vertical composition. So, Qutub Minar looks taller than Taj Mahal. That is because of the composition. A typical example you can put. So, in the case of dressing, the dress codes, if a tall person wears a shirt with vertical compositions, he will look taller. Visually, architecturally, he will look taller. Suppose the taller person wants to reduce visually his height, he should use horizontal composition. If we use horizontal composition, visually his height will be apparently reduced. If a shorter person wants to visually be tall, he has to wear vertical composition. If he is vertical compositions, his height apparently visually will get. A shorter person again uses a horizontal composition in this dress pattern. There is a possibility that he is visioned, or his architecturally his height will be again visually reduced. That is the composition, vertical composition and horizontal composition. If we use repeatedly horizontal and vertical composition, this effect will be neutralized. This effect will be neutralized. The horizontal bars on a window of any building is a horizontal composition. The vertical levers, see, in the sunshade, usually you for breaking the sun heat on the walls, you use levers, vertical sun breakers. If you have repeated vertical sun breakers, it is an example of vertical composition. So an architect will play with this horizontal composition and vertical composition to induce harmony, sometimes to induce duality, ultimately leading to the unity of the whole structure. Next creative principle is the contrast. White is contrast to black. Light is contrast to darkness. So contrast is a creative principle adopted in most of the architectures, starting from historical architecture, which will bring out a new system of architecture. Contrast. If you have series of horizontal composition in one part and a series of vertical composition in another part, it is nothing but a contrast. This horizontal composition is contrast to vertical composition. If you have circular elements, in one part and rectangular or linear elements in some other part, curvilinear elements in one part and linear elements in another part of a structure, then it is a contrast. Usually contrast is envisaged or experimented or practiced in architecture with use of color. Usually color is the main area. Coloring of an architectural shape or a form is the main area where you develop contrast. Color has three qualities. Any color has three qualities: the hue, value, and intensity. HVI, hue, value, and intensity. According to the values of this hue, value, and intensity, the color will look. You will see the feeling, say red, yellow, orange, vibgeo, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. You get these different colors because of their change in values of hue, value, and intensity. There are primary colors, tertiary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors. But from the combination of the primary colors, you get the secondary colors. From the combination of the secondary colors, you get the tertiary colors. Initially, in the paint shops, you were having all colors. At that time, the inventory will be very high, and you need lot of storing area required, because there are several infinite number of colors and color combinations, starting from the very light thing to a very dark thing by changing its hue, value, or intensity. So now the inventory has been reduced because the prime color, the base color is white. So they will have cans of white color, and there is a computer software which will decide the hue, value, and intensity to achieve a particular color, and you will have the cartridges for those colors, for the primary colors, tertiary colors, and secondary colors. And according to the quantity, the software will decide. Suppose you select a particular color from the family of the company, that color, that much quantity, just like a coffee maker. Just a coffee maker, how much decoction you want for a particular color, you fix, you will get an instant coffee. Similarly, you have instant paints. So, major white color, in which you will have combination of colors, by which ultimately the end user's requirement of color will be achieved. It will be mixed together in the horizontal plane, in the rotational plane, in all sorts of plane, it will be rotated, and the white color will be mixed with the ingredient colors, which is mixed using the software, and you will get ultimately the color. So that is the system now. In all paint shops, in hardware shops, you have only major store for white color and all cartridges for other colors. This is what is happening in printing out also. Now, 3D printing you have. In printers also, you have this method to have different combination of colors. Thank you. God bless.